Good afternoon, everybody. It's Tyler Fenn here at the REDX. Welcome you back to another episode of the REDX podcast. And with us again is Ricky Carruth. Ricky, thanks for being with us, man.
Hey, pleasure to be here, bro. It's always a fun time.
It always is. I'm happy that you're here with us, and it's always a good 45 minutes when we get together. Before we get to the good stuff, thank you everybody for joining us. I know that you're all very busy. We're glad that you're here. We're glad that you've taken time out of your busy schedule to join us. If you're not subscribed to our REDX podcast updates, make sure you go to our website and go to the podcast link there and make sure you get subscribed so you get the updates, you get the sizzle reels and the replays and all of that good stuff, because Ricky's going to lay down some truth, and we want to make sure that people get the updates for that. So Ricky, thanks for being with us. Hey, it's Q4. 2022 is right around the corner. What do people need to be focused on right now? If you had to say there's one thing for somebody to focus on their business right now to prepare for 2022, what would your advice be?
Number one, man, let's refrain from using the verbiage that we're in Q4, because we're actually in Q1 2022 right this second. August 31st or August 1st or whatever you want to say, like that should be a real estate agent's January 1st. Okay. You should have New Year's. You should be doing like celebration, counting down to midnight and drinking some champagne and stuff. And the next day, you need to have that same feeling that you have January 1st. You should have two New Year's. It should be August 1st and January 1st, because this is a lag business. So the seeds that you're planting today are not going to come to fruition for a good 3 months at the earliest. Right? Sometimes it's not, it's 6 months, year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. But let's just go with short-term business. The short-term seeds that you're going to plant aren't going to come to fruition for at least 3 months or so. And so the thing is every single year, the reason how I stair-stepped my income every year was taking that fourth quarter and really making it my first quarter. Right? That's how I've continued year over year to take advantage of that slow time in the market when most agents are just chilling. Right? Already hit my goals. I'm just going to hang out for the rest of the year and start fresh in January. It's absolutely backwards from where you need to be thinking if in fact you want to be a top producer. Some agents don't necessarily have the ambitions, to be honest with you, to be a $500,000 a year agent, $1 million a year agent. They're happy with 100, 150, 200. And for those agents, I'm not talking to you. Keep making your 200,000 and more power to you. There's nothing wrong with that. What I'm saying is if you're at 200 and you're wondering why you keep hitting 200 every year, it's because you're calling the fourth quarter. Stop doing it.
Love it. Love it. So in Q1 right now, what should we be focused on? What are the activities? Because like you said, this is the slower time of the year, right? We just came out of the craziest summer that many of us have seen in our careers or for many of in our lives, right? So it has started to slow down a little bit simply because of the seasonality, and that's okay. That's normal and expected. Where should time be focused to make sure that January 1, or we'll say January as a month, is already packed with closings and completed transactions?
Listen, man, again, let's refrain from crazy summer, because what we're implying is that the market actually has some kind of factor in our success when it absolutely does not. In terms of crazy summer, and now we're going into the slow season and stuff like that, you should be full steam ahead 100% of the time building your business. There should be no slowdown. And here's the punchline. Closings happen every single day by the truckloads. And so the fact is that as the market overall slows down with less transactions, let's say that we're at 100% capacity this past summer in terms of number of transactions, going into the cool down of the market plus the seasonal changes that we normally have. Let's say we reduce that down to let's say we come down 20, 30% number of transactions. That 70% that's left is still plenty for you to go out and close as many as you want, right? You shouldn't have a slowdown in your business because the overall market slows down, because it gives you that allure that oh, the market did this, and so my business is going to do that. But what you don't understand is that the market's way up here, and your little old business is a little microscopic piece of sand in the ocean of the market right here at the bottom that is not affected by the waves, right? Do you think a piece of sand 30 miles out in the ocean is affected by the little 1 to 2 foot waves, 100 feet in the air, in the water? Absolutely not. Does it move around a little bit with the tide? Sure. Gets a little, might do a little bit of this, but it's not going to do any of this, right? And so you got to think of yourself as a piece of sand, Tyler, all right? These real estate agents are just pieces of sand, and the ocean is the market, and you just sit down there on the bottom, and what you need to be doing is closing as many deals as you want at all times, and let's take this notion that the market has anything to do with how many closings we have off the table. Now, what does that do when you think like that? You're going to have fluctuations of closings just because that's Mother Nature. You can't stop that. But what does it do? It puts you light years ahead of your so-called competition that doesn't exist. It puts you light years ahead of all the other agents.
So one of the things, Ricky, that I like, and in fact, before I finish that thought, a reminder, everybody, thank you. We got people from all over joining us. This is interactive. So if you have questions for Ricky, please put those in the chat box, regardless of where you're at. If you're on Facebook or YouTube or on our website, chat questions into the chat box. We'll try to get to as many or all if we can. But make sure to remember that, as we'd love to hear from all of you. Now, Ricky, one of the things that I love about about the way you teach people to be successful is it's super simple, right? And so your mindset to say, quit worrying about the market, right? Quit worrying about all of that. We're a small piece of sand in a big ocean that is successful. That's one of the reasons that I love it. That's one of the reasons I love coming to visit you, your events that you're doing, and because it's simple, right? And you believe and know and understand that. So for somebody who isn't there, okay, how do we get there? Let's talk about the mindset of that for just a little bit, because that's the make it or break it, right? Do you have any advice for people that are in that spot where they're like, well, it doesn't seem easy to me, even though Ricky's telling me that?
Yes. I can sum it all up in 2 words. Okay. Simple math. Okay. Simple math. It's just facts. This isn't fiction. This isn't opinions. This isn't a hypothesis. This isn't a theory. This is something that I hope happens. Every single day that you've been alive, Tyler, there have been real estate closings in your market by the truckloads every single day of your life. And what's going to happen for every single day for the rest of your life, no matter what the market does? Because let's face it, we've had some scary moments in the market, right? We had 2008, we had pandemics, we had .com crashes, we had 9/11s. Did that stop the freakish motherly nature of real estate closings happening? We couldn't even have human-to-human contact. Human-to-human contact. We could be nowhere close to another human, but somehow miraculously we have 80% of the same amount of closings happen during the 45-day complete economic shutdown last year, and one of the scariest moments in the last 100 years. Miraculously, title companies and mortgage companies and buyers and sellers figured out a way. Why? Because you can't stop it. Now, what's so crazy is not only 80% of the same amount of closings, it was 80% of the same amount of pending deals were happening, right? So it's, again, simple math. Go to your MLS, go to your county records, go back as far in history as you could possibly go, and find me a day where there's no closings. And take the number of closings, multiply them times 2, because there's a buyer and a seller for every single closing. And so that represents 2 opportunities. For each closing, there's 2. So multiply the amount of closings by 2, and that's how many opportunities happen in your market that day. And it's not opportunities of a maybe closing. Those were actual closed deals. That's not counting the ones that fell through or the possible listings or the expires. Those are the ones that went through. So when you look forward at the market, you see all the scary moments that we've been through where closings never stopped and we're just a little piece of sand on the bottom of the ocean. You realize how much of an abyss that we're actually sitting in, and how incredibly agents have hit the all-time jackpot becoming a real estate agent. Job security forever, right? In an industry that is so massive, you can't even fathom. It's just unfathomable of how massive it is. So when you wrap your mind around all of that, okay, and you put that in a box over here and say, okay, Ricky, we get it. It's massively abundant forever, and there's nothing we can do to change that. And there's as much business as I want in my little old business compared to the rest of the market for as long as I want. We get that. Now, how do we have all these closings? What do we do to put the wheels in motion to actually close the deals? That is, again, very simple. NAR did a study. The number one reason why people choose real estate agents is because they have a friend in the business with a great reputation. It was by far earth-shatteringly higher than every other category, including what brokers they're with. That was a 1%. Everything else was 1% or less as far as the percentage of people surveyed of why they chose a real estate agent. So when you understand that they choose their agent because they had a friend in the business with a great reputation, what does that tell every single real estate agent out there? That we're not chasing deals anymore. We're on a search and we're on a journey to make as many friends in the market as humanly possible and to maintain a great reputation of someone who cares about people and wants the best and is dependable and honest and hardworking and all the things that everyone watching this show is. Everybody who watches this show is an honest, dependable, dedicated, disciplined, consistent. Like you're everything someone wants in an agent. The problem is you're sitting around watching a podcast right now when you need to be in the market because it's already Q1. You need to be in the market right now, building friendships, accumulating these friendships, right? Through one-on-one interactions, great first impressions, and a system on the back end to build your personal brand after you make those great first impressions. Real simple stuff.
So, okay, so here's a question, and you were leading to this right here at the end of what you were just saying, right? And I'm going to repeat this, and you correct me if I'm wrong, right? And nobody's been able to prove you wrong on this yet, but I've heard you challenge people and never seen anybody challenge you. But there's no better way to build your business than to make 5 new friends a day, gather 5 email addresses, and then email that person the same day of the week, every week for the rest of your life. Yeah. Right? Is it that did I hit the nail on the head there?
Pretty much. So it breaks down like this. You know, and I've asked hundreds of thousands of agents through in-person events and online, Zoom calls, on YouTubes, on everything, right? Give me a system better than picking the exact property owner that you want to do business with, getting their information for 2 cents, calling them not to sell them, just to make friends, followed by a weekly email on the same day of the week forever. Okay. And you accumulate 5 new friends a day for 4 years. You got 5,000 people. You, my friend, at that point are the number one agent in your market. All right. And no one can tell me anything better. So when you break the math all the way down, okay, 2 cents for their contact info, 10% pickup rate, which equates to 20 cents per contact. 1 out of 2 is going to be a great conversation that you collect their data. We're at 40 cents for a great conversation with a future client who owns the exact property that you want to represent them buying and selling for the rest of their life. Would you rather have a great conversation for 40 cents a piece, followed by a weekly email on the same day of the week forever, sprinkle some social media in there? I mean, would you rather do that and focus on that and accumulate that and scale that and build that? Or do you want to spend $20 per lead up to $100 to $200 on Zillow? Whereas you get a random person in your market for 1,000,000 times more money. And then what do you have to do? As soon as you get the lead, call them. I said it in Dallas. It's astounding to me the amount of agents listening right now who try to avoid making calls by spending thousands of dollars on leads just to turn right around and call them. It's scary. is what it is. It's like, why can't you see, right? Why can't you see the workaround here that it all comes back to a conversation anyway? Why not just get all the contact information of the people you want to do business with right now for the cheapest dollar and go ahead and call them and have the conversations? It's mind blowing to me when people hear this and they still decide to go get Facebook leads or Zillow leads or even doing open houses or even door knocking makes no sense once you understand the power of instant data, automatic dialing. I mean, listen, I had to reverse look up people's addresses online for 100,000. I made 100,000 calls before REDX even was on my radar. It wasn't even around, really.
Yeah.
They definitely didn't have a dialer until well after I had quit making calls myself. The advancements in technology, I would die to be an agent building my business in today's technological environment, because I could do everything that I did all day long in a matter of about 2 hours every day and accomplish everything Ricky of 2002 to 2015, 16 did in a matter of 2 hours, and then have another 6 hours to completely, crush any of the, accomplishments Ricky did. Right. And so it's mind blowing. But people that are born into this environment don't realize how good they got it. I'm fortunate enough to have went through that era to know what this is in front of us. And I'm taking advantage of every little drop that I can. I'm on every platform and every aspect, and building businesses and still selling real estate, so on and so forth.
Okay, so let me dig into this a little bit, because there's a question that came from somebody on Facebook, and I apologize, for some reason the name didn't come through. It just came through as Facebook user. So Facebook user, this comes from you. But here's what they're asking, and they must be somebody who's following you, right? Because they're it seems like they knew what you were going to say, and that build, make 5 new friends, gather an email them regularly. And this Facebook user says, I can't seem to get an email. Tell me I need to be better. Right? But maybe a better thing is I can't seem to get an email. Give me some tips. So what are some things when you're having those conversations and you're trying to gather those emails? What are some of the things that you've done that have easily gotten you emails in those first time conversations?
What you have to do is you have to look into you have to dissect the conversations. And you have to look at the tone from the very first second. You only have about 1.4 seconds to make a great first impression, to make them kind of feel comfortable enough to continue. And you've got to get really good at that first couple seconds. But look, when it comes to the email, just skipping all the middle part, just to answer this question, there's a lot of things, but the biggest thing is tone, right? And confidence. If you don't sound confident, and your tone's off and there's something just off, chances are they're not going to be comfortable enough to give you that email address. You've got to make them feel comfortable enough to give you that email address. The only way to do that is to be comfortable with them. If you're off, if you're not confident, if you're nervous, if you're whatever, and you're not comfortable, then they're not going to give you the email. So that could be your problem right there. But let's break down the verbiage. A lot of people are asking for the email and they're just saying, hey, what's an email? What's a good email for you? Or, that's a big no-no, right? Here's the approach. Okay. Because you want to make it feel personable. The approach is, hey, listen, you've went through my script and you're saying, hey, you don't have an agent. Well, look, I'm sure at some point in the future, you're going to do something, you're going to buy or sell something. I love the opportunity to work with you when that day comes. Okay. And here's the punchline. Is it okay if I stay in touch with you? Is it okay if I stay in touch with you? And then you let them answer. And when they say sure, because they're not thinking anything, you're going to ask for any kind of private information, or they're thinking maybe you're going to call them from time to time or something like that. Is it okay if I stay in touch with you? Right? Is it all right if we stay in touch? And they're like, sure. And then once they committed and said sure, then it's like, great, what's a good email for you? And so if you add that in and have them commit and say it's okay to stay in touch and then ask for the email, that could be where you're going wrong. Okay. Again, I don't know if it's tone. I don't know if it's verbiage. Another place people go wrong with this is They'll talk about the fact that they send out a weekly email or that they send out a newsletter or something like that. Huge red flag for these property owners, because they get like 8 or 10 of these horrible drip campaign newsletters already, and they dang sure don't want another one. And so when you start using that verbiage, even though if you're following my program and you're building a custom email with some real value, and they really love it and stuff, they don't know that. They don't know that you're going to be different than these other drip campaign type emails with no personality and no character to them. And they're not getting to know their agent at all. They're just seeing numbers and, crap, basically. So they're going to turn you down. Don't talk about what you're going to do with the email. Again, I'd love to stay in touch with you. Yes. Cool. What's a good email for you? Well, I'm not too comfortable with that. Listen, I get it, but here's the thing. I'm not going to spam you at all. I'm just looking for the opportunity to stay in touch with you. Right? Is that okay? I just want to stay in touch. That's how I'll stay in touch, email. All right. So you can take another stab at it right there, but you want to stand firm on the fact that you're using this to stay in touch with them. Make it feel personable.
How many times do you try that before you don't push too hard and you just move on?
Twice. So you ask for the first one, and then you'd say, just like I said it the second time. And at that point, if they're just not interested at that point, you say, all right, well, a lot of people text their business card to the people, make sure that's their cell phone. So that's something you can do, is make sure it's your cell phone. There is text messaging that's becoming more and more popular in marketing in the world of sales. So collecting their data there, the cell phone number as well, and putting them in your text database, is going to be something that's valuable, more and more valuable moving forward. So there's other things you can do, right? But the foundation of all of it needs to be email. And there's one or two things. Either they didn't feel comfortable with you, or they're just like, they loved you, but they just don't give out their email. Some people are just very private like that. So,
well, and here's what I like, Ricky, is I've seen you speak live several times, and I've interviewed you on the podcast here, and your underlying philosophy, if that's the language we want to use, your underlying philosophy for how you do business always is the same. And that's, you're not coming at them with commission breath, right? You're not coming at them looking for a transaction right now. You're coming at them with this mentality that, look, is there anything that I can do for you? Right?
Listen,
real estate
man,
related or not. And I remember, and let me just share this quick story. I remember, maybe this was a year ago. When was there a hurricane right in your neck of the woods? It was about a year ago, right?
Last September.
And I remember you were making phone calls and you were asking people, you were calling past clients, you were prospecting, going, are you guys set? Like, do I need to come out there and help you board up your windows? Right. And that wasn't a tactic. That was how you do business. Right.
Yeah.
And so that goes right in line with what you're saying is, look, I only tried twice. And if I'm not gonna burn the relationship by pushing too hard. I'm gonna try twice, and if there's nothing I can do for that person, then I move on, because, like you said, grain of sand in a big ocean. Let's go find another place to do business.
Well, there you go. That's a good point. There's so much out there, right? Why are we going to get hung up on one person that's just not interested? But really, the bigger picture of what you're saying here is exactly how I've sold so much real estate over my career. Okay. And it's this, that I'm not trying to, I don't care if they buy or sell anything, right? It doesn't, that's not my thing. I'm not trying to get them to buy or sell anything. That's not where I'm going when I'm trying. Listen, here's a punchline for real estate agents. All right. And this is the future of sales. Okay. We're not in the sales business. We're not in the sales business. Okay. The reason why I've helped so many, sold so much property is because I just help people do what they're already doing. Again, closings are happening every day by the truckloads. So you don't have to get people to do stuff that they're already doing left and right. We're not in the sales industry. We're in a service industry. It's not sales, it's service. We're servicing their needs. They come to us, they want to buy or sell something. We help them through that process. we cold call them, or we, find them, or we end up talking to them somehow and they're interested in doing something. We are servicing them through that process. We help them, and 3 years later, they want to sell what we sold them and buy an upgrade, or they refer someone to us. Those clients come to us and say, hey, Ricky, I want to do this. I say, great, here's what we need to do. And now I'm servicing them. And so for me, this isn't sales, right? This isn't sales. We're not even selling ourselves out here. We're just being good people, and we're servicing the public. You need to think of yourself as a volunteer worker. You need to think of yourself as a community worker, doing outreach, right, to the community, to see what we can do to use our services as a real estate agent to help people. Obviously, they need it. You look at MLS and you see all the closings happening where they're being represented by real estate agents. Obviously, they need our help and our service. So every day that you're not making calls, you're doing not only yourself and your family, but you're doing the community a massive disservice by not upholding to your responsibility as a real estate agent to help as many people as you can that are out there that need your help buying and selling real estate.
I love it. Thank you. Here, let's go to a question here. This is from somebody watching on YouTube, Dolores Singh. She says, how do you find the rate turnover, and where is the best area to prospect? So what she's trying to ask here is, how do I find areas where properties are moving? I don't want a stagnant neighborhood. How do I find areas that are moving quickly, and target those areas to prospect?
Let me help you, Dolores. All right. Quit worrying about that. Just listen. A stagnant neighborhood is a great neighborhood. Why? Because we're going to get in there. We're going to say, hey, Mr. Seller, how you doing? Cool. Me too. I'm enjoying the days in the gorgeous. Look, I don't want to take up too much of your time, but nothing sold in your neighborhood in like 3.5 years. I was just calling to see how you're doing and see if there's anything I could do to help you. Right? It gives you a reason to call them. Whatever the situation is in a neighborhood, okay, that's your reason to call them, to let them know, to bring them value. We're wanting to bring value, market value. Maybe there's nothing sold for, 8 months, and now there's one just hit the market. Hey, listen, I don't want to take it too much of your time, but you probably know that nothing's sold in here for 8 months, but I want to let you know one did just hit the market. Is there anything I can do to help you today? Right? So that's the first thing. Number two, how do you pick a subdivision? What you want to do is you want to pick a subdivision, right? Especially if you're newer or you're trying to build your business. You want to pick a subdivision that's close to you geographically, okay? That's eating into the efficiency of what you're doing, that you're not on the road. Like, why would you purposely pick subdivisions that are farther away, and spend more time on the road? It doesn't make any sense, right? So let's think efficiency. Let's pick geographically close subdivisions, and we want to pick subdivisions that are close to the average price point of the market. Why do we want to do that? Well, because that's going to be your best bang for your buck. That's going to be your best dollar per hour. Okay, so when you think about average price point of the market, those are the properties that are going to sell for the most money in the least amount of time. That's where you want to live.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank Dolores. Thank you for that question. Okay, Ricky, I'm going to ask a question of my own here. And this is one of the things that I've seen you give as an answer to questions before. But talk to me about fear, right? Because oftentimes when we're talking about gathering emails and prospecting, and even when we're talking about getting leads for 2 cents a minute with GeoLeads and calling those people, there's still an amazing amount of fear of picking up the phone. And you always have a fantastic response to that. And you ask people what they're afraid of. Can we start right there and talk about that for a little bit? Because I think that's crucial to pair that along with what you were talking about at the very beginning, where, look, this is Q1 2020 right now. This is the work we do right now is our commissions in January. Yeah. Right. So I think that those two things go together really, really well.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to have a great start of the next year, you have to be prospecting harder than you've ever prospected right this second. That's the only way you're going to have the highest yield, the highest amount of closings that and reach your full potential for January 2022. If you're really see right now as the market's kind of slow and it's opening up time. Bam, bam. Hey. You want to say something?
Hey, Poochie Poochie. Just needed some love.
He was sleeping and the FedEx guy came. He got pissed. So no, if you're not prospecting right at the highest velocity that you possibly can right now, this is the best time because the market has slowed, right? Which means that your prospecting should rise. It's a seesaw battle at all times. But back to the fear thing, yeah, I ask agents and I say, okay, you're scared of what? Please do tell. And the answer, I'm telling you, it is pretty much every single time they say the exact same thing. They say, I don't know. What are you scared of? I don't know. And I don't know if they tell me that because they're scared to tell me what they're scared of, and that's their default, or if there's if they really don't know, I hadn't figured it out. But I said, come on, give me something. And so then they say, well, rejection. And I think, well, what's so bad about that? Rejection is not rejection. Number one, objections aren't objections and rejection's not rejection. Okay. You're calling it that and you're using that as an excuse not to make calls for a reason you don't know. Rejection and objections are just your prospect telling you what they want to do. Instead of thinking about that in a negative sense, think about it as direct orders. They're telling you what they want to do. Now take that information and help them do it. Right? It's insane. What do you think? I mean, you're in the business and you hear a lot of stuff. What do you think the biggest fear, rejection, comeback, or not comeback, but what's like a prospect you call and a prospect says what that scares agents?
Yeah, I don't know that there's any one answer. I think that but the root of that is I think that people are afraid because they just don't know what to say, right? Like in my experience, that's what we get down to. Is they go, well, I'm not afraid to pick up the phone. Well, then why aren't you? And they give the answer, well, I don't know. Well,
that's another excuse. More,
right?
That's another excuse, though. You don't know what to say. You say, hello, I'm Ricky Carruth. I'm a local real estate agent. How are you doing? You know what I mean? Like you need it. There's a sense of professionalism here, right? There's a sense of, okay, we are a business and we do offer a service and we do want to offer this service to as many people as we can to see what we can do to help them, right? And so, you don't know what to say. Tell them you're an agent. You help people buy and sell real estate, and you just want to call and see what you can do to help them. I mean, you could just default to that if you want to. This whole thing about, listen, I'll tell you what it is. Everybody has that same exact emotion in the beginning. That's the problem. And the winners say, okay, I'm going to make calls anyway, even though I have this fear that I don't know what to say. I'm still going to make the calls because I know that's what's going to get me to the top. And so they bust through that little stage. And then as they make calls, they learn what to say because they're making calls. It's a chicken and egg thing, right? You can't know what to say until you make the calls, but most agents are scared to make the calls because they don't know what to say. You can't have both. You have to make the calls, right? But let me take it a step further. If you're not making calls because you feel a little bit uncomfortable about making calls, you go home and tell your kids that I'm not living up to my full potential and helping you have the best quality of life that you could possibly have because I don't feel 100% about making calls. I'm scared an alligator is going to jump out of the bushes and bite me if I make calls today, or somebody's going to shoot me with a dart, or UFC guy is going to come punch me or something if I make calls. None of that's ever happened. And nothing's going to happen if you make calls. Nobody's ever died for making calls. And so if you're going to go home and look at your child in the eye, look at your husband in the eye, look at your wife, look at your coworkers in the eye and say, I'm not living up to my full potential, right? Because I feel just a little bit of discomfort to do the one thing that I know that's going to put me at the top, then you got to be the one that lives with that at the end of the day. I can't live like that. I gotta sleep at night knowing I did everything I could do to make sure that we have the best life that we could possibly have, and that I am living up to my full potential. That's just me. I can't tell other people how to live.
So here's I think as I was thinking about this as you're speaking, right? And you're super correct. I think what I see a lot is I see that people want to be the expert right now, but they don't want to get on the phone until they feel like they are an expert, right? And I was thinking, and you know, we're sitting here, people are watching us on YouTube, and I thought YouTube didn't become YouTube that we see right now overnight, right? It started with a really terrible platform, and they iterated and they got better and grew and made smart investments and made smart changes and then became what they are. And our businesses are the same way. Our conversations are the same way, but you have to start somewhere. And like you said, it's as simple as defaulting to, I'm an agent. Here's what I do. Here's how I help people. Is there something that you need help with that I can help you with right now? And that may not sound elegant, quote unquote, or eloquent, but that's better than getting on the phone, or that's better than not getting on the phone at all, right?
If that's all you have to work with, yes. And as far as being eloquent, that's where you come in. I can't stop a winner, Tyler, from winning, and I can't stop a loser from losing, right? Yes. They're going to find a way to win, and the losers are going to find a way to lose, and I don't have anything to do with it. I can go to sleep at night knowing that I did everything I could do to help these people do whatever they're going to do, but they have to go do it. Now, if you want to be the most selfish person, right, in the business world, go to your desk, look at the phone, think about calling and not call because you feel a little uncomfortable. That's the most selfish act that you could possibly have. I feel a little bit uncomfortable, so I'm not going to make calls to provide the best life for my family, and I'm going to suffer myself as well. What? Are you kidding me right now? You know, wake up, get up, go get on the phone. Dude, I was making calls for 8 hours a day, hand dialing. It took. Listen, I dialed 100 numbers so many days. I know how long it takes to hand dial. When I hear people say I hand dialed 100 numbers in 3 hours, I call BS. I've been there. I have done it. I know how long it takes. So I don't know, man. You know, I'll end with that, but you know, it hopefully, you know, my energy could kind of maybe help some of these people that are a little bit scared realize you need to wake up every morning and realize how much fun this is. Well, if you go in and think cold calling or calling people and you're thinking, oh no, you know, somebody might reject me. This is fun. This is a chore. I don't like this. Then it's not going to be fun. But if you take the phone and you say, I'm going to go help some people today. Right? I can't wait to get on the phone and talk to some people and see what in the world they got going on, see how they're doing, let them know how I'm doing, and see if there's anything I can do to help them today. Right? And when you have those bad calls, which is going to be, you know, a couple, then you laugh it off and you know, look at my calls. I mean, people hang up on me. I call them back. We're laughing the whole time, having fun, drinking tea. It's not a big deal. Nobody's ever died from this. Right?
Hey, man, I just had the flashback when you were prospecting here in the office. You put the chair on your head, right?
That's I don't know where that came from.
Ricky, thank you so much for being with us. This was fantastic. As always, guys and gals, you can watch the replay of these right here on the REDX website. We do this live every single Thursday at 1:30 Mountain Time. We have amazing guests on here, as you've just witnessed. Ricky has been on here a couple of times. His energy, his simplicity is amazing. Please go and implement these things that we talked about. Again, if you're not subscribed to the REDX podcast, make sure that you go to our website, theredx.com/podcast, fill out your name in the form there, and you'll get the updates and make sure that you get all this amazing content sent right to you so that you never miss one of these amazing podcasts. Ricky, thank you again so much for being here with us. Guys and gals, we'll see you next Thursday at 1:30.